Shalom, everyone. Welcome to Hebraic Awakening. And I am going to do a very short video on the Gullah Geechee tour that we took in Charleston, South Carolina. A few of us from our assembly got together, took a day trip from North Carolina to South Carolina to meet with Mr. Godfrey as he gave us the real tour of Charleston. And we stayed almost 2 hours. I mean, he was so excited about giving us the information because we know who we are, and we have been studying. And so it made him just interact with us more. If you decide to go on the tour and you really haven't discovered who you are, his tour is going to be a bit much for you, because there was another couple on the tour and I think they enjoyed the historical sites. However, I don't think they were 100% with him, giving the information from a Hebraic perspective, right? And so that's just a warning for those that research him, because there are people who have gotten off that bus, he said, in the middle of the tour. And he let them out because his personality is, this is the truth. This is his tour, his business, owned by him. And if you don't like it, he will stop and let you out. So I loved every minute of it, and I highly recommend it. So with that being said, he is a native and from South Carolina, his family, and just the impeccable research, from my perspective that he did, I just really enjoyed it. On the bus, having the big screen, pulling up receipts, to go along with his research. So please take the tour. So as we were looking at the buildings and the structures and the houses, it reminded us of the slave dungeons in Ghana. Elmina and Cape Coast slave dungeons. How they had the little windows, and at the bottom, and some of them had little holes in the little windows so that the slaves could breathe. I mean, it was the same structure. So this is a well thought out plan to enslave us the way that they did. And it's just an eerie feeling in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm sorry. Before I even took the tour, when we enter in, I was like, it's beautiful, but it's a eerie beautiful. It's a hauntingly beautiful city. And now I know why, right? Because some territories just have more spirits, have more entities. Take the time to look up the old exchange. Okay, this is a dungeon. This is what it says. And this is where the Constitution was ratified, y'all. This is where George Washington and the elite would sit with their dinners and have their meetings and do their thing. And you can really feel it in the atmosphere. So take the time to look up these houses, because they are preserved, and a lot of white people take these tours. It's a sprinkle of us that go on the tours, but a lot of white people take these tours, and they really love to hear the history, and they talk about how they had slaves in the house, and, white people eat this stuff up. How it was preserved, what was happening in the house, how they did business. Like, South Carolina is the most openly racist state that I know. And I know I live in North Carolina and they are racist too, but there's a covert racism and there's an overt racism. And South Carolina will put it in your face, and they are proud about it. So take the time to look up these homes, because I keep saying the word spooky because it really is. You can feel the energy in the streets, in the trees, in the restaurants. It is embedded. These hanging trees, these willow trees that are beautiful, where we were hung, the way that even the train station was made, underground or in the basement, is where the slaves were. Um, Slaves had to whistle as they were uh, preparing meals so that their slave masters wouldn't think that they were tasting the food. They built these torture boxes onto the houses to torture the slaves and to buck break them in those torture boxes. Um, these trees are just magnificent. The color on the houses that keep away certain spirits. And speaking of that, you see these chains. They think this is cute. They still have these chains on their house. That's sick. And we all know what those chains represent. So these houses have this energy, and these elite white people are fighting to stay in Charleston. Yeah, they have really pushed a lot of the blacks out and to keep them out. And because remember, George Washington Carver and the elite, this is where they would do their thing. Even the businesses. I didn't even want to shop. I didn't. I didn't even want to shop after this tour because I just did. I just couldn't. They love to take selfies. They do not care about the history. They're going to take selfies. You see those window boxes with the flowers? Honey, because at the bottom, that's where they kept the slaves. And so they would put the flowers in the window so that you wouldn't smell the slaves underneath them. They would leave the windows open and blow the fresh flower air into the place. So you see where he had his receipts, and we got to see his research that he pulled up as he was telling us. And Charleston is the number one destination for outdoor weddings. He said it was the number one city that brings in revenue per capita. I believe it. And this is where people love to have weddings, but this is where we were hung. Like this was it for us to be hung on trees and for you to see niggas on trees everywhere. I'm just keeping it real. And seeing the auction block stones in front of the houses, these people, for every 10 slaves, they were given 500 acres of land. And this is why they will always be ahead of us. And this is why they want to keep certain black people out of Charleston. They do not want our money. He said they don't even want Oprah's money. She was trying to buy property down here, but they wouldn't let her. I believe it. So please do your due diligence because, all of America is racist and spooky to some degree, but some territories, as you can see, it's just worse than others. These gates, they have codes and messages, and you can see it for yourself. And all those swirls and all those symbols mean something. They're not just swirls and symbols on these gates. They mean something. And they have a lot of gates in Charleston, South Carolina. So please take the tour. This is just a short synopsis. Take the tour and study for yourself. All right. I'll talk to you all soon.